Hey guys, Chad here from Take It or Leave It, here with another quick movie review for you for a film called Beaten to Death. Here's the synopsis. A desperate choice leads Jack down a path that leaves him beaten and bruised as he struggles against man, nature, and his own insanity. Alright, so let's dive right on into this thing, starting with the pros. So if you're watching my review right now and you're looking at the trailer, cat's out of the bag. This thing is for all gore hounds, torture porn junkies, and carnage candy addicts. I don't know if you put out a request for this, but man, you got it. This film is for you guys, because no joke, this film is freaking intense, brutal, and ruthless as all hell. Now that being said, I will say that this film does tend to veer more on the side of survival horror rather than torture porn, but this by no means takes away from the heightened levels of visceral gore and utter brutality in this film. In fact, I think there is an argument to be made that the realistic nature of this film actually makes it way more devastating and way more brutal. So it should go without saying that this movie is clearly not for everybody, and you should know that before you decide to go into this thing. Okay, and with all that being said, let's start getting into the quality of the film. Let me get this out of the way now. Generally speaking, this is a gorgeous and very well-crafted film, but what really brings it all together is Thomas Roach, the lead actor playing our protagonist, Jack. Thomas gives an Academy Award-worthy performance, and he deserves a frickin' medal purely for the punishment that he endured during the making of this film. I mean, the guy was hospitalized at the end of filming. That's commitment, and I applaud him for it. But the makeup and effects teams also deserve some award recognition, as the actors looked so convincingly bloody, mutilated, and grimy that it completely enhanced the authenticity of the performances and the film as a whole. And while the film is relentlessly brutal, the filmmakers use a non-linear storytelling approach and a contradictingly beautiful musical score to help provide some much needed periodic relief along the way. But at the same time, there are several gut-wrenchingly tense and suspenseful scenes in this film in which the musical score went full Zimmer and it dramatically amped up the tension. In particular, for a car chase sequence that might be the most thrilling chase sequence I've seen since The Batman. And what's not to say about Tasmania? This gorgeous, desolate, and otherworldly landscape is a living, breathing character in and of itself. And finally, for the pros, well, this is more of a disclaimer to everything I just said. What made this movie work for me at the end of the day is my interpretation of the film. I'm not sure if this was intended by the filmmakers, but I choose to interpret this film as being a part literal and part metaphorical discussion regarding the topic of toxic family loyalty, mental health, and PTSD, and the direct and indirect collateral damage that can occur if these are unaddressed, as well as the socioeconomic and cultural forces that exacerbate the negative effects of these unaddressed issues. Under this lens, the film becomes far more interesting and compelling, and thank God, because without this lens, and now we're on to the cons, this film is uncompromisingly grim, bleak, and maudlin. Guys, listen to me, okay? I cannot emphasize this enough. Have you heard that saying, "I'm banging my head against the wall because it feels so good when I stop"? That joke or saying applies to films like The Pursuit of Happiness, where horrible things happen all movie, but the good guys finally win by the end, and it's great. Well, that's not this movie, guys.
Let me take a look at that. Let me see, little trick. Take your mind off that arm.
My finger! My finger!
Give it time.
Yeah, Beaten to Death is a lot more like that. Seriously, whatever other issues I have with this film, none of them compare with the fact that this was one of the most grueling movie theater experiences I've had in a while. And that ending, oh my god, guys, that frickin' ending. Rarely have I seen a filmmaker so blatantly give the finger to the audience while yelling, "Screw your expectations." Now, on the one hand, I think that's frickin' punk rock as hell, and I love it in concept. But on the other hand, without that lens of interpretation that I mentioned mentioned earlier, this film becomes an exercise in self-flagellation that's topped off with an artificially forced FU ending on top. And since I'm not personally into that, no kink shaming here, more power to you if you are, but I'm going to keep the lens of interpretation on, because I do think that the filmmaker proved that he's an excellent filmmaker, and from what I've heard in interviews, he's a very, very intentional and purposeful director, so I don't think it's any coincidence that I was able to glean these interpretations from the film. And until I hear or see otherwise, I'm going to assume that this was intentional, and I'm going to keep that lens of interpretation on. But with or without it, I'll say this film is punishing as all hell. And while interesting, is definitely not something I'm looking to get back into anytime soon, but I think that was the filmmaker's intention, so bravo to him. I think he definitely accomplished his goal, at least as it pertains to me. This film definitely has elements of Wolf Creek, Wake in Fright, Coming Home in the Dark, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Red, White, and Blue, and Martyrs. And by the way, look, if you're asking me, I still think that Martyrs is a more effed up movie than this, but hey, if you like Martyrs, you're gonna like this one. And also, if you haven't seen Red, White, and Blue, do not sleep on that movie. That movie is actually much more sophisticated than you might think based on the poster. Nah, Red, White, and Blue, check that movie out. It's a very well made, effed up revenge flick. That definitely left me conflicted and with a lump in my throat. It's a great movie, check it out. And with all that being said, I'm gonna give Beaten to Death a 6.7 out of 10. But those are just my thoughts, take it or leave it. What do you guys think? Have you heard of this film? Is it kind of your cup of tea or definitely not? Let me know down in the comments section. Let's talk about it. And as usual, guys, thank you so much for stopping by my channel. I really, really appreciate it. Don't be afraid to hit that like and subscribe button. And until next time, I'm Chad from Take It or Leave It, and I'll check you later.
Check you later. Check you later.
Hey man, get off my case.
Oh man. Chicks don't want to hear that shit.